Hello and welcome to the Broken Sword. Today we are looking at what Saruman's plan might have been if he had defeated Rohan.
Build me an army worthy of Mordor.
So today I'm bringing you a what if type video. Now we've done one or two of these in the past and okay, they don't tend to do the best, but we have had many requests to have a go at them again, so here is one today based off Saruman if he was not defeated. Now I will say, if at any point within this video you kind of disagree with something I've said, think the path should have gone a different way, then please why not leave a comment down below with the timestamp and say why you would have done something different here. A bit of interaction on these videos is always great, so please feel free to dissect and alter anything you think may be the case just for a bit of fun. But anyway, now let's get into it. The once great Maya of Aule the Smith, the one named Perumo. This angelic being was sent by the Valar as one of the 5 Istari to help fight against the darkness of Sauron around the year 1000 of the Third Age. But it is safe to say he really did not stick to his mission and even come close to completing his given task. He believed that he needed to impose order into Middle-earth through whatever means necessary, whether that be through the gaining of power or even betraying the mission that the Valar sent him there to complete. But we will come back to this in a bit, as his idea of order does play an important role in kind of figuring out how this question may be answered. A lot of his decision making came from envy and desire to have Sauron's power, especially for the possession of the One Ring. So, after initially arriving in Middle-earth, Saruman did not make an immediate home, and instead he travelled for a short time into the east, towards the lands where the elves first appeared all that time before, and then before later making his home in Isengard. This is believed to be the case because he read about the location of the Palantir being here from his time dissecting the archives within Minas Tirith. More time would pass, and Saruman would continue to hunt for any hints of the whereabouts of the One Ring, and only once he understands that Sauron did in fact have more knowledge of its location would he then consent later to an attack on Dol Guldur in 2941 of the Third Age, as at this point he was the head of the White Council. Saruman's pride and arrogance would continue to swell, along with his jealousy towards Gandalf, and this mixed into a dangerous concoction, for this led him to opening communication and becoming dominated by Sauron, and this was all through the use of the Palantir. So, in a way, he became a servant of his will, or at least appears to be. So, his intentions here were one of two things: to seize the One Ring for himself, or, if he could not, to stand as an ally to the victorious Sauron. This is where his attention turns to Rohan. He influences and buys out the allegiance of GRIMA Wormtongue, chief advisor to King Theoden, and through him influences poor counsel to an already weakening king. Then, as we know from The Lord of the Rings, he captures Gandalf, who escapes, and finally reveals his true intentions to the forces of good. The Witch King would then pay Saruman a visit just days after Gandalf's escape, where Saruman lies to him about having any knowledge of this so-called place called the Shire. However, this would not end well, as you may expect, as in September of 3018, the Nazgul would be on their hunt, and would capture one of the wizard's Shire spies, who revealed to them that Saruman was planning another betrayal, a traitor to his quest, a traitor to the free peoples, a traitor to the Dark Lord. There was only one hope for him now: finding the One Ring and keeping it for himself. He still tried to deceive Sauron by promising to kill THEODRED, King Theoden's son, and with this he also sent out several parties of his fighting URUK-HAI with the goal of finding the Fellowship. One of these groups is the one that would ambush the Fellowship at Amon Hen, where they would capture Merry and Pippin and kill Boromir of Gondor. Then we know from here he would lay siege to Helm's Deep, and while this was going on, he attacked in his home by the Ents of Fangorn with Merry and Pippin. Both battles would not go his way. He would lose quite dramatically. But what if he hadn't? what was his next move if he had won and survived both of these assaults? Well, quickly, before we jump into this, I would like to say to you all, do you want to see a full story of Saruman video like I have done with the likes of Gandalf and Malkor in the past? If you do, then please just leave me a comment of Saruman of many colours, and I will get working on that for you. But anyway, after that quick pause, let's get back to the video. Now we have potentially a couple of options, and these boil down to, does Saruman find the One Ring, or does he not? Let us imagine things went a little bit differently here. Saruman's fighting URUK-HAI managed to topple Helm's Deep quickly before Gandalf and Erkenbrand could arrive as the reinforcements. All our heroes would be slain. There would be no more Aragorn, no more Legolas, no more Gimli, no more Theoden, and no more Eomer either. Isengard's army manages to fortify themselves inside of Helm's Deep, so when the cavalry charge arrives and Gandalf leads from the front, he is far less effective, and these URUK-HAI could come out victorious here too. Maybe half their army even pull back a bit, they used a pincer movement and trapped the reinforcements, wiping them out. So what does this mean? Well, what it does mean is Saruman has now managed to take out nearly all of the biggest threats in one swift blow. At this point, he could be considered a master at war from his own tower within Orthanc. But we need to imagine that not just this battle is different, but the one at Isengard too. Perhaps this time Saruman was wiser to the powerful beings he had been upsetting. He was prepared for the potential march of the Ents, so he set himself up with several fire-based defences on the outskirts and throughout his base. The Ents do not manage to trap him, they all perish, which in this scenario includes Merry and Pippin too, and Saruman now comes out victorious on two fronts. And now this is where we will make a split in our two potential what-ifs, if you will. For our first possibility, Saruman is now full of confidence, having wiped out not only the returning Gandalf the White, but also the heir of Elendil and the king of Rohan. But now they are gone, what is his purpose? Well, the same as it always is with Saruman, to create order and enforce it. Saruman would now know that Gondor was weakened, so Sauron would launch a full-scale assault on that front. And now that there was no Rohirrim to come in support, their chances of survival are drastically reduced. And not just that, but there was now also no Grey Company to follow Aragorn there either, meaning basically all reinforcements once the battle starts no longer exist. Without the One Ring, Saruman would not be brave enough to march to Mordor and challenge Sauron yet. So first things first, he would have sent his armies to destroy any small forms of resistance within Rohan and burnt everything down. Next up, build his army. He knew Sauron would not trust him after his betrayal, and he had already been uncovered, so he had to get ready to be attacked. But at the same time, keep searching for the One Ring, for that was his biggest hope of victory. Now he had two options. Attack Sauron while he attacked Minas Tirith to hope that he could strike a surprise on an already distracted army, or option 2, hold up inside Isengard and just hope he can make an impenetrable defense. Now personally, I believe he would choose the latter. He would want to stay safe, while still secretly hunting for the ring. But I do not think this would work well. Without reinforcements, Gondor would fall. There would be no reunited kingdom of the race of men, and hope would fail. And once they were dealt with, Sauron's eye would turn either to Isengard or to the elves. And in whichever order he chooses to go at these, when the time came to it, I cannot see a way that Sauron would not be victorious. He could send orcs, trolls, the Nazgul, the men of Harad with their Mumakil, and the Easterlings too. Saruman would have to find one hell of a way of producing URUK-HAI to be able to withstand this. Even if it is said that a single URUK-HAI is as good as multiple orcs, the rate of production is just never going to happen. So in the end, if this is how the events ran, then the end for Saruman would be the same. But instead of being let escape by the Ents and eventually killed by GRIMA in the Shire, Sauron would either make sure he is killed in battle or left to rot, chained up, with no hope of escape, whatever the powers of his voice may have once been. Now, this is where we look at our other possibility, so we'll go back to that split, and this differs due to the march of the Ents. Now imagine here, Instead of killing every single one of them, Saruman actually captures the two hobbits Merry and Pippin alive from this assault, and through his powers he learns of Frodo and Sam. He knows that he has killed everyone else from their fellowship at Amon Hen and Helm's Deep, so the other two hobbits must have gone off on their own around the time of the attack on Amon Hen. So Saruman sends as many scouts as he can to hunt them down, including the crows. These crows will then find the location of Frodo and Sam, and they cannot escape as their enemies close in. So now, Saruman has the one ring that he has greatly desired for such a long time. But what does this mean? What is Saruman capable of now that he has this almighty weapon? Again, we have a couple of options. The one I believe is more likely is that he probably cannot do as much as he would have hoped. After all, if Saruman had taken and claimed the ring for his own, Sauron would have most likely been made aware of this immediately. Then, what happens next comes down to the way Sauron would react. Would he wish to reclaim the One Ring as soon as possible, or would he bide his time? It is most likely he would want to go quickly. He has been hunting for this ring to make him all powerful again for so long. Now that he knows of his exact location, this is the last thing that he needs. To go with that too, Saruman would not be able to master this ring overnight, and it would take time even for a master in ring craft and magic as Saruman was. If Sauron could get back there before he can risk Saruman gaining mastery over it, then it massively tips the scales in his own favour. If he waited too long and somehow Saruman does completely gain mastery over it, then he's risking being overpowered by the wizard himself. So he would most likely not take any risks of sending anyone else, and at this point just go himself. We must remember, when he thought Aragorn had the ring when he looked into the Palantir, Sauron reacted with a very quick offensive strike, meaning that a confrontation between Saruman and Sauron is basically inevitable at this point. When the two come to it though, it would not be a closely fought battle. Gandalf was not believed to have the direct strength to take down Sauron, but Gandalf was able to cast out Saruman. It seems as though Sauron would have more easily had the upper hand in such a contest, especially if Saruman had not mastered the One Ring yet either. Would there have been a full-scale army assault? Maybe. It is likely he would bring that massive army with him to strike fear into Saruman and hopefully just get him to hand over the One Ring. But if he did have the ring, then he would likely also become blind with his potential power. I think in the end, it could just come down to a one-on-one contest within Orthanc, of which I can only see one real outcome. Sauron wins again. Now there was another potential option, and that would involve if Saruman could hide the fact that he had the One Ring from Sauron. If he did so, then as quickly as he could before making Sauron aware, he would build up an empire of mighty warriors, all bred for the single purpose of war and victory over Sauron. But I don't think this would have changed much by the very end. We must remember that in the Council of Elrond, it was said that while the ring still existed, the forces of good could have no real hope of truly defeating Sauron. So even if Saruman defeated his army, he would most likely just go away in a far-off land and rebuild his strength just like he did after the War of the Last Alliance. You've really got to remember, Sauron has existed since the beginning of time. If he has to wait another 1,000 years or so to rebuild and go again, does that really mean a lot to him? Probably not. At the end of the day, I think no matter what Saruman did, Sauron would just be too much of a powerful opponent to be able to overcome. So that's what I believe basically Saruman's plans were if he had defeated Rohan. I think that in terms of Saruman himself, his fate would have gone the same. He would have simply wanted to grow his power and enforce order over all of Middle-earth, but he would have wanted to do this alone. Sitting on a throne alongside Sauron would not have been an option. He would have wanted to do it by himself. He had become too greedy and self-confident in his time to really consider sharing anything. No matter whatever those plans may have been, I think in terms of Saruman himself, his fate would have been the same. As I said, he grew too greedy, and in the end, this would be his downfall. Whether that was going to be at the hands of GRIMA, of Sauron, or of someone else entirely, he was simply destined to live the rest of his existence as some dust in the wind. When we do consider the battle between Sauron and Saruman though, we do need to remember that they were both in origin Maya of Aule. This means that they may be expected to have some knowledge of each other, and therefore that they would have some idea of each other's strengths and weaknesses. If that is the case, then that is information that could potentially use to really change potential events. I mean, if he really believed he could win, then Saruman must surely have had an awareness of something to do with Sauron to think that this was possible. Or again, perhaps simply, it was just his lust for power has just blinded him that much, he just doesn't really have a clue. It could be quite hard to say. Saruman is not supposed to remember anything of his time before he came to Middle-earth, so it might be a one-sided thing. Sauron might potentially know of Karumo and figure out that this is Saruman, and Saruman might have no idea at all. It is quite funny how so much of these what if videos comes down to a simple what if. So, who knows? So I hope you did enjoy this video for today. After all, this is a slightly different one going back to a what if. Like I said before, these haven't necessarily always done quite as well as the other videos, but if you would like to see more of them, I really do enjoy trying to come up with these kind of scenarios, so I'd love to do some more. But now it is time for my question for you all today, which is, what do you think about all of this? Is there another scenario that you would actually think would come out different, or perhaps change some of the points that I have made? Have I missed some points that would really change what has happened? How would things go in your own head? Or is there anything else you would like to add at all? Please just let me know all of your thoughts and opinions and why in the comment section below. And now, firstly, to quickly mention our other channels that will all be linked in the description below, and this does include the new Attitude Wrestling channel that we have brought in to present for By Some Friends. So please check any of those out if the subjects may interest you. And now also to shout out our patrons, with firstly our Divine Power tier members of Kevin, Abram and Matt, you are all awesome, and a big thanks to our Fire Demon tier members of Nashith, Denverseal and Gregory, and as well I cannot forget the Wizard Staff tier members of John, Andrew, Bill, Evil Chameleon, Jennifer and Finrod Felagund as well. Every single one of you is a true legend of the Bro Hero. And now finally, if you have managed to reach the very end of this video with me today and you are enjoying what you're seeing on this channel, then please think about hitting the like button on the video, hitting that subscribe button on the channel along with the bell icon too, so that you can be notified of all future uploads. And with that, I will say thank you again if you've managed to reach the very end of this video with me, and I will see you next time on The Broken Sword.